Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for a moment, because this year right here, this year cannot look like the last one. Some of us keep asking God for more money, more success, more peace, more elevation, but we keep bringing him the same lazy habits, same excuses, same delays. And I learned something in my life. You cannot keep doing what's easy and expect your life to become extraordinary. Laziness is not about sleeping too much. Laziness is when you know what to do and still don't do it. It's when your alarm goes off and you negotiate with it. It's when you say, I'll start tomorrow, knowing deep down tomorrow has been lying to you for years. See, the problem isn't that you don't have potential. The problem is you don't activate it. And potential that is not used becomes frustration. Let me tell you something real. Motivation is overrated. You're not going to feel motivated every day. Some days you're going to be tired. Some days you're going to be discouraged. Some days you're going to feel like quitting before you even begin. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Winners don't win because they feel good all the time. Winners win because they show up anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, let me clear something up right now, because too many people are walking around carrying a label that does not belong to them. You keep saying, I'm just a lazy person, like it's your personality, like it's who you were born to be. No, it's not. Laziness is not your identity. Laziness is a habit. And anything that is a habit can be broken. But you can't break what you keep accepting. See, when you call it your personality, you give yourself permission to stay stuck. You say, that's just how I am, and now you don't have to change. But when you recognize it as a habit, now you have responsibility. Habits are formed by repetition. You repeated comfort. You repeated putting things off. And over time, it started feeling normal, familiar, easy. But easy has never been the pathway to greatness. Let me tell you something about habits. They don't ask how big your dream is. They don't care how talented you are. Habits run your life quietly, every day without making noise. They shape your future. If your habit is delay, your future will always be late. If your habit is avoidance, your success will always feel just out of reach. Not because you can't reach it, but because you trained yourself not to try consistently. The dangerous part about laziness is that it doesn't show up loud. It shows up soft. It whispers you can do it later. It says you still have time. It tells you one day off won't hurt. But laziness stacks. One day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 year. And then you wake up wondering where your time went. Time didn't leave you, you handed it over. You were not created to live a delayed life. God did not give you breath, ideas, and ability just so you could keep postponing your purpose. You weren't born lazy. You learned laziness. And what's learned can be unlearned. But it starts with honesty. You have to stop lying to yourself and calling it rest when it's really avoidance. Rest is earned. Avoidance is fear wearing pajamas. Every time you choose not to act, you reinforce the habit. But here's the good news. Every time you choose action, even small action, you weaken that habit. You don't have to overhaul your whole life in one day. You just have to stop doing nothing. Get up when you don't feel like it. Start before you feel ready. Do one thing that moves you forward. Momentum doesn't come from thinking. It comes from movement. People say, I'm waiting for motivation. Motivation comes after action, not before it. You don't feel motivated to work out until you start moving. You don't feel confident until you take a step. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. Laziness keeps you waiting for a feeling that only effort can produce. Understand this, habits don't change with promises. They change with practice. You can make all the speeches you want of yourself, but until your behavior changes, nothing else will. Replace the habit of delay with the habit of discipline. Replace later with no. Replace excuses with execution. And at first, it's going to feel uncomfortable because comfort was your habit. But discomfort is the sign that growth is happening. You don't need a new personality. You need new patterns. The moment you stop identifying as E and start identifying as disciplined and progress, your whole mindset shifts. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, what's the next step? And that one shift, repeated daily, is how a habit loses its power and a future finally begins to open up. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this as plain as I know how, because too many people are waiting on a feeling that is never coming. You keep telling yourself, when I feel motivated, I'll start. But motivation is unreliable. Motivation is emotional. Motivation shows up when it feels like it and disappears when things get hard. If your life depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. That's why discipline will always beat motivation every single day. Discipline is not loud. And it doesn't hype you up. It doesn't give speeches. Discipline is quiet. It shows up early. It does the work when nobody is watching. Discipline says, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway. And that right there is the difference between people who talk about success and people who live it. Winners don't wake up every morning excited. They wake up committed. See, motivation works when life is easy, when you're rested, when things are going your way. But discipline works when you're tired, discouraged, and doubting yourself. Discipline works when the results are slow. Discipline works when nobody is clapping. And let me tell you something real. Most breakthroughs happen on days when you feel like quitting. If you quit on those days, you quit right before the miracle. A lot of people think discipline is punishment. They think it means suffering. No, discipline is protection. Discipline protects your future from your moods. It keeps your destiny safe from your emotions. Because your emotions will lie to you. Your emotions will say, you're not good enough. Discipline says, show up anyway. Your emotions will say, rest a little more. Discipline says, get up. You said you wanted more. You don't need discipline in everything. You just need it in the things that matter, the small daily choices, the decision to practice instead of procrastinate, to study instead of scroll, to work instead of wait. Discipline in small things builds confidence. And confidence but discipline is unshakable because you earned it. Let me tell you something else that discipline is learned. Nobody is born disciplined. You build it the same way you build muscle through resistance. The first time you push yourself, it hurts. The second time, it's uncomfortable. The third time, it gets familiar. And after a while, what once felt hard becomes normal. That's how discipline changes your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. People always ask, how do I stay consistent? You don't stay consistent by feeling good. You stay consistent by deciding who you are. When you decide, I am the kind of person who finishes what I start, your behavior begins to align. Discipline is a decision you make once and honor daily. You don't renegotiate it every morning. You don't argue with it when you're tired. You just do what you said you would do. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. Discipline will cost you comfort. It will cost you late nights of entertainment. It will cost you lazy mornings. It will cost you excuses. But what it gives you back is priceless self-respect. When you do what you promised yourself you would do, you start trusting yourself again. And a person who trusts themselves is dangerous in the best way. You don't need more hype. You don't need another speech. You need routine. You need standards. Set a standard so clear that your emotions don't get a vote. Decide the time you wake up. Decide the work you do daily. Decide the habits you won't break. Because once discipline becomes your lifestyle, motivation becomes optional, and success becomes inevitable. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that most people overlook. But it decides everything about where your life is going. Your future is not created on the days when you feel strong. It is created on the days when you are tired, discouraged, frustrated, and still choose to move. Anybody can work when they're excited. Anybody can chase a dream when everything is going right. But the real separation happens on the hard days. When you're tired, your mind starts negotiating. It starts offering you deals. Just skip today. You've already done enough. One break won't hurt. And that's the moment your future is being tested. Because tiredness doesn't remove responsibility. It just reveals your priorities. What you do when you're tired shows you what really matters to you. See, most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stop showing up consistently. They let fatigue make decisions for them. But let me tell you something important. Tired is not the same as finished. Being exhausted doesn't mean you're done. It means you're human. And successful people don't wait to feel rested to act. They act and rest later. There are going to be days when you don't feel inspired, days when your body feels heavy and your mind feels cloudy, days when progress feels invisible. Those are not signs to stop. Those are signs you're in the process. Growth is exhausting. Change is tiring. Becoming more than who you used to be will drain you before it strengthens you. But if you quit every time you feel tired, you will never reach the version of yourself you keep dreaming about. Understand this, the hardest days are often the most valuable. The days you show up when you don't want to build a kind of strength you cannot get any other way. That strength is called endurance. And endurance is what carries you when talent runs out. Talent opens doors, but endurance keeps you in the room. You think the successful people you admire never get tired. They get tired all the time. The difference is they don't let tiredness vote. They acknowledge it, but they don't obey it. They say, I'm tired, but I'm still moving. And every time they do that, they widen the gap between who they are and who they used to be. Your future is watching how you handle fatigue. Every small action you take when you're tired is a deposit into your tomorrow. You may not see the return immediately, but trust me, it's compounding. Lazy days feel good in the moment, but they charge interest later. Effortful days feel hard now, but they pay dividends in the future. Let me say this clearly. You don't need to give 100% every day, but you do need to give something. Even 20% on a hard day is better than zero. Movement, no matter how small, keeps the door open. Stockard slams it shut. Progress is not about perfection. It's about persistence. Some of you are closer than you think, but you're tired of trying. And that's exactly when you have to dig deeper. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. The breakthrough you're praying for might be on the other side of a day you feel like giving up. When you choose effort while tired, you are training your mind not to run from discomfort. You are teaching yourself that feelings don't control you. And that lesson will serve you in every area of your life, because life will not always wait until you feel ready. Opportunity doesn't check your energy level. Responsibility doesn't care about your mood. So every time you're tired and you still show up, understand this: you are building a future that your past habits could never reach. And one day, you look back and realize the days that felt the hardest were the days that changed everything. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people don't want to admit because it sounds good in theory, but it hurts in practice. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is not neutral. Comfort is dangerous. Comfort is the silent enemy of everything you say you want in life. The reason so many dreams die quietly is not because of failure, but because comfort slowly convinces people to stop trying. Comfort feels safe. It feels familiar. It tells you, stay where you are. Nothing bad is happening here, but nothing great is happening there either. Comfort doesn't push you. Comfort doesn't challenge you. Comfort doesn't demand growth. And anything that doesn't challenge you will eventually weaken you. Muscles don't grow without resistance, and neither does character. Most people don't stay stuck because they can't move forward. They stay stuck because where they are is convenient. It's easier to stay in the same routine, easier to keep the same habits, easier to avoid the risk of change. But easy comes at a cost. Easy costs you your potential. Easy costs you the future you could have had. Comfort will convince you that you deserve rest before you've earned progress. It will tell you that you've been through enough, even when you haven't given your best yet. It will wrap laziness in the language of self-care. And don't get me wrong, rest is important, but rest is not escape. Rest is recovery after effort, not a substitute for it. Every level of success demands a new level of discomfort. The habits that got you this far will not take you where you want to go next. You can't grow and stay comfortable at the same time. One of them has to go. And the moment you choose growth, comfort starts feeling threatened. That's when it whispers, "Why change? You're doing okay?" And okay is the enemy of great. Let me tell you something about discomfort. It is temporary, but the results it produces are lasting. The pain of discipline lasts minutes. The pain of regret lasts years. And too many people are choosing short-term comfort over long-term fulfillment. They trade their future for a few hours of ease today. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is working. When you step outside your comfort zone, you stretch. When you stretch, you grow. And growth always feels unfamiliar before it feels empowering. If it feels uncomfortable, that doesn't mean stop. That means you're in the right place. The life you want requires a version of you that doesn't exist yet. And that version is built through uncomfortable decisions. Getting up earlier than you want. Staying focused when you'd rather relax. Saying no to distractions so you can say yes to your destiny. Comfort will fight you on every one of those decisions. People admire success, but they don't see the discomfort behind it. They see the result, not the sacrifice. They see the victory, not the lonely mornings and hard nights. But every successful person you respect paid a price in discomfort long before they got paid in results. If you want this year to be different, you have to stop asking, "How can I be more comfortable?" and start asking, "How can I grow?" Growth asks more of you. Growth stretches you. Growth demands effort. But growth also rewards you with confidence, strength, and self-respect. Comfort keeps you where you are. Discomfort takes you where you need to go. And the moment you stop running from discomfort and start using it, you stop being average and start becoming unstoppable. Ladies and gentlemen, let me shift your thinking for a moment, because a lot of people believe that success comes from one big decision, one big opportunity, or one life-changing moment. That sounds good, but it's not how life really works. Life is built in small moments. Futures are shaped by tiny decisions repeated every single day. And the reason most people never change their lives is not because they don't know what to do, but because they underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. People love dramatic change. They want overnight success. They want a breakthrough without the buildup. But momentum doesn't work like that. Momentum is quiet. It builds slowly. It starts so small you almost don't notice it. One early morning, one focused hour, one decision to do the work instead of delay it. Those small actions don't look impressive at first, but they are powerful when they are repeated. Small actions compound. Just like money grows with interest, effort grows with consistency. One day of discipline won't change your life, but discipline practiced daily will. The problem is most people quit too early. They don't see results fast enough, so they assume it's not working. But progress is happening under the surface long before it shows on the outside. Think about this. You don't get out of shape overnight, and you don't get successful overnight either. Both are the result of habits. And habits are formed through small, repeated behaviors. When you choose to take a small positive action today, you make tomorrow easier. When you skip it, you make tomorrow harder. That's momentum working either for you or against you. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do something consistently. One page read is better than no book opened. One workout is better than none. One honest hour of work is better than a whole day of distraction. Momentum starts when you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what you have. Small actions also build confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your self-trust. And self-trust is fuel. When you trust yourself, you stop doubting whether you can change. You already know you can, because you've been proving it in small ways every day. Most people sabotage momentum by breaking it with laziness. They think one skipped day doesn't matter. But skipping is a habit too. When you skip once, it becomes easier to skip again. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. Intensity burns out. Consistency builds. Momentum doesn't care how talented you are. It rewards those who show up. Talent without momentum stays stuck. Average effort with momentum becomes unstoppable. And once momentum is on your side, laziness has a hard time catching you. It's much harder to stop something that's already moving than to start something from zero. The key is to lower the barrier to action. Don't ask yourself to be perfect. Ask yourself to be present. Do the minimum required to move forward, and then do it again tomorrow. Over time, that minimum becomes your standard, and your standard becomes your identity. One day you'll wake up and realize the life you're living is the result of what you've been doing every day, not what you planned to do, and not what you talked about, but what you actually did. And that's when you'll understand that small actions were never small at all. They were building something powerful all along. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very honest with you, because excuses are the most expensive thing you will ever own. They cost nothing to make, but they cost you everything in return. Every time you explain why you couldn't do something, you are quietly agreeing to stay exactly where you are. And the truth is, God can bless effort, but He will never bless excuses. Excuses sound reasonable. They always do. That's why they're so dangerous. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'll start when things calm down. But life doesn't calm down. Responsibility doesn't pause. Opportunity doesn't wait for perfect conditions. If you're waiting for the right time, you're going to be waiting forever. Most people don't lack resources. They lack resolve. You already have enough time, enough ability, enough access to start. What you don't have yet is the habit of execution. Excuses protect your comfort, but they sabotage your calling. They make you feel better in the moment, but they make your future harder. Let me tell you something powerful. Effort is a form of faith. When you get up and do the work, even when you don't see results yet, you are saying, I believe something better is coming. When you make excuses, you are saying, I don't trust the process enough to try. God responds to movement. He meets you when you step forward, not when you stand still explaining why you can't move. Every excuse you repeat becomes a belief, and beliefs shape behavior. If you keep telling yourself you're too busy, you'll never make time. If you keep telling yourself you're not ready, you'll never begin. But the moment you replace excuses with action, your identity starts to shift. You stop being someone who talks and start being someone who does. Excuses also steal accountability. They move responsibility away from you and place it on circumstances. But as long as your life is controlled by circumstances, you will never feel powerful. The day you take responsibility, even for things that aren't fully your fault, is the day you take control. You don't need perfect conditions to move forward. You need courage. You need honesty. You need to admit that sometimes the reason you didn't act wasn't because you couldn't. It was because you didn't want to feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. Growth is uncomfortable. But avoiding discomfort only delays progress. Hard work doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it looks like showing up again when you're tired of trying. Sometimes it looks like doing the same boring task one more time. Sometimes it looks like choosing discipline over distraction. That kind of effort doesn't get applause, but it gets results. Stop asking for blessings you're not prepared to work for. Stop praying for doors to open while you're refusing to walk. This year, make a decision to remove excuses from your vocabulary. Replace them with responsibility. Replace them with effort. Replace them with action. Because when excuses leave your life, progress enters. And when effort becomes your habit, blessing becomes your direction.